80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Unwanted sexting or photos, inappropriate jokes, even tickling or wrestling can feel like a violation. Catcalling, cornering, or groping, getting them drunk or high for sex, recording sexual acts without permission, hurting someone because of their sexual orientation, raping a family member, a child, a date, a friend, a stranger, purchasing a human being for sex. You make the choice every single time. Sexual violence is many things. Make a choice. Do not do it.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Don't fall for vaccine misinformation. Local medical professionals are available to answer any of your questions. Initial shots and boosters are safe for people who are pregnant and even young children. Right now, vaccines are available for anyone over 6 months of age, while boosters are available for anyone over the age of 5. This message brought to you by the Native American Community Clinic. Find a vaccination site by calling 651-304-9986 or visit vaccineconnector.mn.gov.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies tonight with a low around 68. Thursday, a chance for rain with a high near 89. And Friday, more rain with a high around 70. Eat Local Minnesota is a great way to find locally owned Minnesota restaurants and food purveyors. They feature high-quality food and unique eating experiences for your next meal. Some of those restaurants and food purveyors include the Park Tavern and Vinaigrette. Find a full list of all those restaurants and food purveyors at eatlocalminnesota.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be Indigenous. Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade.
I'm not hearing anything coming through, Robert.
Fortunately, I don't think we're quite picking up Robert Pilot right now. I know, Ogama, you're there right now, correct?
Yeah, I'm here. Can
Okay.
you hear me all right?
We can hear you. I was going to say if we can, get things
Okay.
settled
I
with
was
Robert.
thinking
but
I
well,
was the one with the problem. Hi, Ani Bonjour, everybody. Welcome to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake. Apologies for the technical difficulties today here midweek. I'll just go ahead with the news for a little bit while Robert kind of sorts out what might be happening with the audio. First things first, I wanted to talk about and lift prayers up for the Smith Cree Nation in Saskatchewan. all but one of the 10 people killed on a mass stabbing on the James Smith Cree Nation in Saskatchewan, Canada, were members of the James Smith Cree Nation. Indian Country Today just did an update this afternoon. Those who were killed were as old as 78 and injured were as old as 78 and as young as 23. This is one of the largest mass killings in Canadian history. On I believe it was Tuesday, Miles Sanderson and his brother Damien Sanderson are believed to be the excuse me. Miles Sanderson and Damien Sanderson are believed to be the murderers who went around on Sunday, September 4th, knocking on doors in the James Smith Cree Nation and attacking people inside. They went to about a dozen homes and then went over to the nearby village of Weldon, where a non-Indigenous person named Wesley Peterson was killed in his home. Peterson's believed to be the only non-Indigenous victim in the massacre, and it left 18 people injured, 10 people dead, and one of those was a 14-year-old boy. I just want to take a moment to lift up the names of the people from this very small community in Canada. The James Smith Cree Nation, which is just north of Montana, is a really small community. They've got about 3,400 citizens, and about 1,900 of them live on the reserve there. It's composed of 3 communities: the James Smith Cree, the Peter Chapman First Nation, and a third. All of these people, with the exception of the last, are from the James Smith Cree Nation. Their names are Thomas Burns, Carol Burns, Gregory Burns, Lydia Gloria Burns, Bonnie Burns, Earl Burns, Lena Head, Christian Head, Robert Sanderson, and Wesley Peterson. So our prayers up for the Cree Nation in Canada. Robert, I heard we have you back.
Yes. How do I sound?
Welcome. Great. You sound fabulous.
Well, it's hard. We're doing like a silent movie thing here. I could hear myself very well, and I could hear you. So it's just weird. I've had some internet problems here, so I'm not surprised. So Ogama, we talk about news and events that you don't hear anywhere else, and so I've been listening to you, and back at you.
Yeah, so it's just really sad for all the families who are up in Saskatchewan who are hurting, and
Oh my goodness. Yes.
I couldn't even imagine. Somebody commented yesterday on our show and said that the James Smith Cree Nation, the community where all this happened, it's actually only of a community of about 250 people. And that person is from Canada, from that area up there. So that is an incredibly small community to be facing 10 people that are lost and 18 people that are injured. And it really is deeply disturbing, and even more disturbing that it's a mass stabbing of all things, too. I mean, I don't know what would drive a person to do that, but to my knowledge and every update that I've seen so far, one of the suspects has been killed, has been found dead. Damien Sanderson was found dead, but Miles Sanderson remained at large as of Wednesday, which is today. So I haven't found any updates that say that Miles Sanderson has been caught. So he's currently still at large, which is also deeply disturbing and terrifying, especially considering Saskatchewan's closeness to the United States as well. But prayers that he's found and is able to be brought for justice for those families. So
Yeah,
yes,
Kathleen says he's still at large.
yes.
So thank you, Kathleen, for that. We have reporters and listeners all over Turtle Island. We appreciate it.
Yeah. So, after touching base on that, I have some more rather sad news. The Urban Indian Health Institute, as of the end of August, said that there was a federal report that has found that Native Americans had the sharpest decline in life expectancy in the year 2021. Native health experts say that the stats are also likely an undercount due to poor data collection. So the National Center for Health Statistics and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, released a report titled Provisional Life Expectancy Estimates for 2021, and it found that American Indian and Alaska Native population had the steepest decline in life expectancy from 2019 to 2020, dropping from 71.8 years to 65.2 years of age. And also they had the steepest decline from 2020 to 2021, dropping from 67.1 to 65.2. So it's really appalling that the life expectancy of Native people is this badly and is dropping this quickly. So the Abigail Echohawk, who's the director of the Urban Indian Health Institute, said that American Indians and Alaska Natives are one of the largest growing multiracial, multi-ethnic populations in the country, and that we will not stay silent as we continue to be victims of structural racism and data genocide, which is exactly what we're dealing with and why this show exists, right, Robert?
Yeah, definitely. And, it's been interesting. The last few conversations with Dr. Stately, who's going to be on tonight, we're talking about, all this misinformation out there, too, that affects brown and black people all over Turtle Island. So, all these laws that are coming down on us, we're going to be fighting ICWA here soon. So it's an uphill battle, but we're awake over here. I guess that's why we named the show that way.
Exactly. So, in other national news, for those people who are working to stop the Mountain Valley Pipeline in Appalachia, there is an event happening at the U.S. Capitol tomorrow, September 8th. The frontline leaders are doing a rally on September 8th outside of the U.S. Capitol to demand that U.S. senators and representatives stop Manchin's dirty deal, which also, funny enough, not only includes the Mountain Valley Pipeline being fast-tracked, it also includes Line 5 in Wisconsin and Michigan. So if you can, September 8th, there is a rally to stop Manchin's dirty deal at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. You can find out more information about that by going to peopleversuspipelines.org. If you cannot go in person, which I am probably one of those people, there's also a very quick and easy 30-minute rally that's happening online that same day on Thursday, September 8th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can get the link for that virtual rally again at peopleversusfossilfuels.org for the September 8th rally. And I do have a little bit of local news too, Robert, but maybe we can mention that when Dr. Stately joins us.
Yeah, that's great to know. We'll do that. Up next, Dr. Stately, and a little bit more news with Ogama. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
If the statistics say that 1 in 3 Native women and 1 in 6 Native men have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime, it means our whole community is affected by sexual violence. 1 is too many. Don't stand by, stand up. Don't engage in acts of sexual violence, and shut down the dirty jokes, the gossip, the victim blaming and shaming. As a community, we can change the way we respond. Contact the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition to attend a workshop to learn more. Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Ramsey County's Transforming Systems Together initiative is rethinking how the county delivers services and invests in the community, including through grants. Grants are available to support individuals and organizations providing prevention services and serving vulnerable youth involved in child protection and foster care. To learn more and see if you or your organization qualifies, visit ramseycounty.us/TST grants. Applications are due by September 30th.
Seward Co-op is now offering convenient self-serve and prepackaged hot options and salad bars at both the Franklin and Friendship stores. Breakfast items available daily until 11 a.m. and brunch served all day every Sunday. Their weekly lunch and dinner menus highlight cuisines from around the world. They offer vegan, vegetarian, and gluten-free options daily. 95% of the ingredients used are organic from small-scale, local community food producers whenever possible. More at seward.coop.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. This is Spirit from Reservation Dogs. Get up and listen.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, what's this portion brought to you by? Do you even know? I don't.
I think I could pull it off. This portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, Fighting for Climate Justice.
And they're a grassroots organization.
They are a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice. They definitely are.
Well, before we get Dr. Stately on, why don't you finish up? I just want to say, too, it's a holiday for me because Reservation Dogs is on tonight. So I'm for the next one. So it's like another holiday.
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention in a bit of local Minnesota news that Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan issued a memo yesterday stating that they have announced the promotion of Patina Park to the Executive Director of Tribal State Relations. She's going to continue to serve as the direct link between the office of the governor and lieutenant governor and Minnesota's 11 tribal nations and tribal communities, but Tribal State Relations is being elevated to a standalone department within the governor's office. So that is some pretty exciting and pretty big news here for Minnesota. Patina Park will also be joined by Mariah Norwood, who has been newly hired as the Native American Affairs Advisor. So we have some exciting tribal and state relations happening here in Minnesota. I just wanted to mention that.
No, that's a good mention too. And I have a conversation with Patina and Ho Chunk Nation coming up here via the governor. So I'll be doing a Zoom with him talking about possibly adding us to the at least have it where our relatives here in Minnesota can get the things that these other 11 nations can get. And I see Dr. Stately's working lighting there. Dr. Stately, CEO of the Native American Community Clinic here in St. Paul. That's a slip of the tongue. Minnesota and Minneapolis on Franklin Avenue. Welcome, Dr. Stately, and thank you for coming on. A weird day for you. You're usually our Monday person starting out the week, but we all have a fair hangover.
All right, some serious fair hangover. Yeah, bonjour, everyone. How are you?
I like that shirt for me, by the way.
Thank you. He looks when I look at him closely, he looks a little bit like Bear from the side. He can look like Bear from Reservation Dogs, like a side view. Right.
Exactly.
Just like imagine him saying, "Get your COVID shot."
Yeah. Hey, I've been watching.
Shitheads.
Yeah, I better beep that out. Hey, this isn't public radio where you can say whatever you want, Dr. Stately.
Oh, wow. Oh, there you
go. So, I don't know. I started my exercising again after taking a day off. I've walked down to the river and did my, 12,000 steps early in the morning. Feeling good, but geez, I mean, being on my feet for 12, 13 days was really hard.
Yeah, you probably, those dogs were certainly barking by the end of the weekend, I'm sure. I could hear them whining a little bit when I was in your booth the other day. But yeah, for sure. Yelping, barking for help. But yes, it was like, I was going to come by and see you, I think, later in the evening. Because I lost my kids and I had nothing else to do and I didn't know what to do with myself at that fair, and then I got swept up in a crowd and taken off into the sunset. So yeah, I
can
think
happen.
that might be like that could possibly be the last time I go to the fair. So,
Oh, well,
yeah, it's like it's a little bit too rowdy for me in my old age.
I think your dog just squeaked his thing saying, "No, you have to go to the fair and work at Native Roots
He
Trading
probably
Post.
did. And I
Sign some
just took one of
autographs."
his
No.
and I just took one of his squeaky toys away from him. Like, where are you finding these things at? But yes, I'm kind of in the same boat. It was my the first day back for my sons today for school, 10th grade, Prior Lake, you know. Yeah, we're really excited about it. They're super excited about it. They're very tired though. I got home from work and they were already lounging on the couch watching TV and with their eyes half open. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember those days. As a matter of fact, I was just a teacher 2 years ago, and they're exciting days. They're also very draining, and you really have to watch your caffeine intake too, because you don't want to go off on the young ones. But uh, that's why I'm retired from teaching, right?
Oh yeah. Well, you don't want to be brutalizing the young ones on their first day. Just kidding. Leave that to their parents as they're getting out the house. This morning I was like, what is like you so like last night I was up doing laundry till all hours of the night so they could have clean clothes because they told me that they did it and I was like, that's not okay. So anyway, but I got them all off to school successfully today. They had a great first day, what they said. A couple of their friends who had left come back. One friend from another district transferred into this district. They're pretty excited about it, so they get to like spend time with friends. But we had to sit down and have like a conversation and say like, okay, what are your goals this year with school? How my sons are gonna hopefully play high school hockey, but and they had a game last night, so they were extra tired this morning because they played in Orono. They won their game 9-3, which was pretty awesome. It's an off-season hockey game, but I told them it's not just about like how skilled you are as a hockey player. It's not just about this or about that. It's also about like, to play high school hockey and to get into college hockey, you also have to have grades. No one's going to take you into their institution just because you're an amazing hockey player. Those are a dime a dozen, but a phenomenal player who's also really intelligent and is very effective at what he does and, prepared and all these other things is what they want. So we're going to work on those skills this year and try to get them ready to buckle down and work hard.
Yeah, you got to tell them the sad stories. I know a friend of mine who was throwing left-handed 90 miles an hour as a high schooler was drafted, but they didn't sign him because he didn't graduate. You have to finish things.
Yep.
You know that.
Yeah, and we're gonna work on small things like it's about practicing and the other. I think I'm a child psychologist, and so like sometimes I can be really effective with my children. I'm way more effective working with other people's children for some really odd reason. I think the reason is like you can't actually be your own child's therapist. But I did take them in on Tuesday for their well child check. Got them like all set up with that. They're nothing nothing to do, nothing at all like wrong with them other than there might be something wrong with their ears because they don't listen very well. I told the doctor, check again, look again. Use the extra powered flash or my little thing that they look in their eyes. But they're doing well. But we did have to have a conversation with the doctor about like one of my sons. Well, they both have mild cases of ADHD. They were evaluated the year of the pandemic, and I tried really hard to sort of kind of help them through the last couple of years, like using behavioral modification strategies and coaching and a few other things. But it was a crazy and chaotic, hectic couple of years since 2020, and it really has really reflected in their ability to sort of like perform well in school. So one kid's going to start medication. He actually started his first day of medication, really low dose of non-amphetamine or stimulant based medication that will help him hopefully attend. And all kids want to feel successful. I think they all want to feel successful and feel like they're accomplishing things. And so hopefully this is a tool that he can use to sort of feel a little bit more sense of mastery and feel successful. And I'm partly divulging this and disclosing this because I know that a lot of parents struggle with trying to get their kids ready for school, right? And to do all the things that we do during the summertime, like go to powwow, go to ceremony, take them to the fair 2 or 3 times perhaps, like this crazy man here. And you as a parent, you feel sometimes like, oh gosh, I'm not doing such a great job here. I should have had their well child checks done in June. But like just the most important thing you can do is shout for your kid every day, support them, love them, pat them on the back, encourage them, and then give them a fighting chance in their academic experience by making sure that you kind of help make sure that there's nothing else they're struggling with, right?
Right.
Yeah, mental health issues, whatever.
We got like less than a minute left here, and I always really loved when the challenging ones wanted to challenge me, and I would just humor them because I've told you stories about that where the young ones go, "Hey, your favorite student wants to talk to you," that graduated, and I went, "I don't care. You're my favorites now," and they just were testing me,
Yeah,
it's awesome
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got to take a break here, but I just want to say we got someone say they caught Miles Sanders around 3:30 p.m. Standard Time. So you know that. All right. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and here with Dr. Stately and Ogama. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us. Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me one. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Minnesotans age 65 plus might qualify for Health Partners Minnesota Senior Health Options. The plan includes personal support, coverage for medical, prescription drugs, and dental, plus over 30 extra benefits. Eligibility information is available at healthpartners.com/oneplan. Health Partners is a health plan that contracts with both Medicare and the Minnesota Medical Assistance Medicaid program to provide benefits of both programs to enrollees. Enrollment in Health Partners depends on contract renewal.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hi, Minnesota. This is David Packman. You can hear my show every weekday at 2, right after Tom Hartman on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
If you're like most people, you probably noticed your energy bills are going up and going up fast. Unfortunately, that's not likely to change anytime soon. So if high utility bills have you seeing red, see green instead by locking in an energy rate with All Energy Solar. Switching to All Energy Solar gives you peace of mind knowing your energy costs won't be rising along with fossil fuel costs. Solar panels last 25 to 30 years, giving you a good idea of where your energy is coming from for decades to come. Plus, a system from All Energy Solar could save you even more with net metering. With net metering, extra energy generated by your solar panels is sent back into the energy grid in exchange for credit on your electric bill. Those credits pay for your energy use on days when solar production is low or your electricity use is high. So declare your independence from the fossil fuel industry by switching to All Energy Solar. Get a free, no-obligation assessment from All Energy Solar by calling 800-620-3370 or visiting allenergysolar.com.
It's an absolute must for any true foodie. Vinaigrette at 50th and Xerxes in South Minneapolis offers premium oils and vinegars for the most discriminating of tastes. This is Sarah Piepenberg, owner of Vinaigrette. We bottle on-site, there's no guesswork, and you get to taste test each and every oil and vinegar we offer. Our direct relationship with the growers ensures an uncompromised level of satisfaction. When you need to know you're cooking with the finest ingredients, first contact the independently owned Vinaigrette, 50th and Xerxes in South Minneapolis. Online at vinaigrettemn.com.
Hi, this is Kirk Duckwall with Bricks Real Estate and the Twin Cities Real Estate Show here on AM 950. With home prices at all-time highs, do you want to downsize but don't know where to start? With the fast-changing market, I can help with timing, pricing strategy, home preparation, and much more. Take the worry of selling away and give me a call today at 651-303-0019. I've helped many AM 950 listeners sell their houses, and I can help you too.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies tonight with a low around 68. Thursday, a chance for rain with a high near 89. And Friday, more rain with a high around 70. Eat Local Minnesota is a great way to find locally owned Minnesota restaurants and food purveyors. They feature high-quality food and unique eating experiences for your next meal. Some of those restaurants and food purveyors include the Park Tavern and Vinaigrette. Find a full list of all those restaurants and food purveyors at eatlocalminnesota.com.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by, let's just go with MN350, a grassroots organization working for climate justice.
And also Minnesota Women's Indian Sexual Assault Coalition. They've been a great sponsor for many, many, many years from the first time we started doing this. Got to give them a big shout out, especially the way, we hear about abductions. We hear about all these things on the news. Sometimes it's hard to watch the news, and it makes my problem seem very small. So we put tobacco out for our relatives. We got Dr. Stately with us in Ogama, Ganua-Kwe, and we're talking back to school, and I really didn't think, and because I don't know Dr. Stately, that how much these 2 years really affected our little ones. And man, have they.
Yeah, the last 2 years of COVID, 2020 and 2021, really just made it very, very challenging for our young ones to navigate their educational experience. We have seen significant upticks in, mental health challenges, increases in anxiety disorders, depressive disorders, suicidal ideation, all kinds of things within the community with our young ones. And I think a lot of that has to do with not just sort of like it has to do with the byproduct of things like being, isolating in place, not being able to be in social situations with your friends, and, being in social conditions with friends at school is a really critical thing. It's a really important part of development to actually be able to spend time with your peers in school. There's so many things that you learn from a social and emotional perspective in terms of development, and being in a school setting where you share space and you work on tasks together. If you have a conflict, you learn conflict resolution skills. You learn all these really critical things that sort of like help you to develop as a young person to a young adult, and into an adult who can kind of go on to life and manage things. And our kids, so many of our kids across the globe, we're challenged by that. And then within our communities where we have a significant overabundance of mental health issues because of other conditions that contribute to that, it was hard to go through the last couple of years and have that situation amplify itself. And I think one of the things that we want to also try to remember is that, while we, my nephew Ruben says this, I think he has this as a lyric in his song, one of his songs. wrote one of my favorite songs, actually, Dear My Future Son, where he talks to his future child in the song, and he talks about, like, the educational process and how that's not necessarily intended to sort of like be the most positive and reinforcing experience for Indigenous boys and girls because of what's taught in the schools. He talked about, like, you remember that yes, we have historical trauma. Yes, we have trauma in our DA, but we also have resilience and strength and perseverance. Those things are also in our DNA. So one of the things I think I want to try to speak to parents tonight is, like, encourage your children and help them understand, like, certainly get them help, but also be a source of support for them and encouragement, and give them that extra hug, give them as many hugs and kisses as you have to give them until they feel confident navigating a space that they haven't been in for maybe the last year or two. And it's certainly not a space and place in which they maybe felt comfortable and that they felt um, invited into or supported in. Like, let them know that you have their back and that you're there to support them verbally, through behavior, and other kinds of things. If they're asking for help and they're crying out for help, don't ignore them, respond to them, and take the steps to try to support them, because that's how we make sure that they feel confident that they can move through the world. They'll have people supporting them in the future.
Yeah, I cannot imagine. I was a very people person. I kind of hung out with everybody, the jocks, the burnouts, and everybody, the actors and theater, sports.
Mhm.
And I can't imagine not being, while you were talking, I was thinking, how would I have dealt with this? Because I was in mid addiction back in high school too. Would I have abused more? I mean, we have so many relatives when we're talking about COVID, Dr. Stately, that we forget about all the overdoses that happen too at the same time with not the over news, but more news about COVID than what's been happening. So,
Yeah. Yeah, the last couple of years have been really tough in our communities because of that. So what happened, I think, during COVID is that, like, the isolation, the lack of being able to spend time. We're a social people. We gather in powwows, we gather in ceremonies, we gather around the kitchen table, we laugh, we talk, we cry together, we do everything together as Native people. And so to sort of have this situation where we weren't really able to sort of kind of step into that space really during a really difficult time. If we were struggling with things like depression, anxiety, or trauma, if we were struggling with addiction or other things, that were challenging for us, um, COVID in lots of ways amplified those things for us, because the spaces and places that we might go necessarily are, culturally, to sort of find the emotional and psychological and spiritual salve for those conditions, were things that we weren't readily available to us because of the pandemic. We couldn't gather socially. We couldn't go to ceremony. Many of us couldn't, and we didn't have access to some of the things that we would use to sort of heal our hearts and make us feel um, tethered to the earth, as I like to call it. So in that situation, it becomes really understandable how, like, we could end up having many more overdoses and deaths by overdose, many more people succumbing to other kinds of versions of self-harm and things. So.
Well, Dr. Stately, we have Ogama here too, and I know she has a young one and a very, very young one, and you were moving at the same time. I mean, all these things during COVID. Ogama, how the heck did you deal with that, or did you?
Did I deal with that? Yeah, I mean, I guess I did. I guess I consider myself a matriarch in my family. And so for those of you who don't know, I have a fourth grader and I have a 6-month-old, which is a pretty big gap in children. And, figuring out what each child needs developmentally is difficult some days. But I know that my fourth grader, we really had a hard time, during COVID-19, and she has worked very hard in the last year. I sent her back to school in person, masking last year for 2021-2022 school year. And she worked very hard. She worked through the summer. She did tutoring through the summer for the second summer in a row to be able to bring her reading scores to grade level because she had fallen behind during COVID. But she had also, not historically had great reading scores to begin with when COVID happened. So that just kind of exaggerated a problem that, we had to begin with. So, I mean, as far as coping, my family, we do a lot of, offering each other space and grace and forgiveness for outbursts and stress that we're under. And we do a lot of talking about it, like this makes me feel this way. And, now I'm going to go take a hot bath or eat an entire bar of chocolate and cry, those typical parent things we do. We hide in the closet with a bag of licorice and try to just remain strong for our children. But it's been difficult.
Dr. Stately.
I love that. I haven't actually hidden with a bag of licorice, but I've done other kinds of forms of, parental support, I suppose, is one way of thinking.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing I want to say here is like, parent, I think it's really important to cut ourselves a break as parents. Like, we're not perfect. We get a lot of things wrong, right? And I used to like feel really guilty at different times as a parent because I'm also a child psychologist, and I felt like I didn't do things right. It'd be like, how come you can't get this right? You're a child psychologist, for God's sake. People are gonna think you're crazy, or they're gonna think this. And I lose my temper. I yell at them about stupid things. The other day, I yelled at my kid because he started the shower and he left the shower on for 30 minutes, and then he went and did something else. But he has ADHD, and so and yes, instantly I was like, oh my God, my water bill. So I yelled at him a little bit, and then I had to go back to him later and apologize and say, I'm sorry. But just try your best to why don't you think about not turning on the shower until you're actually ready to step in, those kinds of things. So helping them with problem solve and those kinds of things. And we're not perfect. We make mistakes. I tell people all the time, I make 50 or 60 mistakes before I walk out the front door in the morning. And that's okay. We're not supposed to be perfect. We're supposed to be human, but we are also supposed to be good relatives. And that means to our children and to one another.
I come from the generation, I don't remember my parents ever saying that they were sorry or wrong. And to hear you say that, it's just like, that's a new deal. I mean, in the last few generations, and that's a good thing to hear, because meeting people where they're at is what a skill that you're handing down to them.
Yeah, one of the things, and it wasn't something I don't even remember at what point in time it dawned on me to do that, but I talked with somebody about it, but it just what I try to teach my children is the principle of things, something as simple as if you hurt somebody, whether you intend to hurt them or not, it's irrespective, because before they'd be well, I didn't mean it, or I'd be okay, when they got to be a certain age where they could kind of understand the difference between intent and accidental, I said, I want you to know whether you intend to hurt somebody or whether you do it accidentally really doesn't matter. The person's hurt, and our job as being a good relative is to take care of the hurt person, right? And take ownership and responsibility for our part in things. And so it's really a principle to teach them, I think.
That is awesome. Why don't we come back and finish this up? You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm with Ogama and Dr. Stately, and we're trying to just talk it out. That's all we can do here. There's so much going on around, and it's taking care of our own and hoping that we all have a good life. I've learned in my older age, I'd rather be happy instead of right. That's a good one. We'll be right back after the short break.
J&S Bean Factory is a Native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Ramsey County's Transforming Systems Together initiative is rethinking how the county delivers services and invests in the community, including through grants. Grants are available to support individuals and organizations providing prevention services and serving vulnerable youth involved in child protection and foster care. To learn more and see if you or your organization qualifies, visit ramseycounty.us/TST grants. Applications are due by September 30th.
COVID levels may be falling, but the virus is still around. Stay healthy and up to date on your COVID vaccinations and boosters. Right now, everyone 6 months and older is eligible to get a vaccination, while everyone 5 and up is eligible for their booster shot. Plus, you're eligible for a second booster if you're over 50 or received an initial booster dose at least 4 months ago. Find a vaccination site by calling 651-304-9986 or visit vaccineconnector.mn.gov. This message brought to you by the Native American Community Clinic.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
This is Winona LaDuke of Honor the Earth, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm Awake.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
I bet you they don't do that on NPR there, Dr. Stately.
They don't. And look, my dog here is he's thinking we're calling him. Come on, baby, get down.
Just cute. It doesn't. Your dog doesn't look like a puppy anymore, Dr. Stately.
He's not. He's so big. The other day he pulled I wasn't really, when you have a brand new baby, baby proof your house. I really have to do a better job of German Shepherd proofing my house, because he pulled something off some dish or something like that right off the counter and ate the entire thing, which came out poorly.
Usually does.
I'll just leave it there. But hey, I wanted to take this opportunity to really kind of mention, as we think about getting ready to take our kids back to school, part of that is doing their well child checks and stuff like that, but also where they can catch up on their immunizations for flu and polio is a really important one. We've had a couple of polio cases here so if they haven't had those things and they haven't had their other vaccinations, it's really important to do that. I went to the doctor last week and got my shot for what was it when not shingles. I did that a long time ago, but for I mean, think great. Basically, when you step on a dirty nail, you don't want to end up with tetanus. So I got that thing, and that kind of hurt actually. I was like, wow, that one hurt. That one hurt way more than my COVID shot. So,
delicate flower.
Yeah.
A delicate flower.
True.
Oh,
true. But delicate flowers are also very resilient, and they have good medicine.
Oh,
but one of the things I really want to encourage families to think about and to consider and talk about, with your children, talk about it amongst your families, call your provider and talk to them and ask questions, is, the new COVID boosters are out and ready to be distributed to everybody 12 years old and above. In our communities, we've had, lower participation rates for the 5 to 12, 5 to 18 year range than other groups. And it's the BA4 and the BA5 variant of COVID, which has been the predominant strains of the Omicron strains that have been sort of kind of taking over. and being very stealthy in their sort of like, their movement through communities. Some people are ending up very, very ill. Some people get like, sniffles or something, and then they're fine and they go on their way. But it's impacting everybody differently. And I think one of the things I want to just remind people is that, if you're not fully vaccinated and you're not necessarily immune to one of these mutation strains, and you have other health challenges, it can make it very, very difficult for you in terms of your illness course and also the severity of illness. And so this new bivalent vaccine booster is designed to give you some additional support for the original strain, and then some support and protection from some of the newer strains. And I want to encourage people to get out and get those things because being back in the school environment in closed rooms without masks, poor ventilation systems like they're having in Los Angeles schools. The story today on that radio station we won't talk about. Those things are fodder for transmission of illness, right? And I just want to encourage people to do everything they can to start their children's academic year in a good way and do everything they can do to protect them and start them off in a good way.
That's awesome. So, Dr. Stately, how many people have you run into, like myself, that have been double boost, that's been all over? I just did the state fair, and as far as I know, I have not had COVID yet. Could I just be carrying that or passing?
I don't know. I don't think that there's any evidence that seems to suggest you can be a carrier for the virus, but not also be positive. Like you have to. I think you have to also have. You don't have to necessarily get ill. What we're seeing actually in this new wave of mutations and variants is that people are not necessarily getting sick, and they're actually positive for several days before they actually end up actually having any serious illness or any symptoms whatsoever. Some people are positive and they didn't even have any symptoms. I had a aunt, or actually my children's grandmother. She found out she was positive when she went to do her pre-op surgery appointment before she went in for a major surgery, and they were like, "We have to reschedule your surgery. You have COVID," and she wasn't ill at all. Like she didn't have any active symptoms, and so are the symptoms you would imagine to be sort of like what we've heard historically. So the challenge with these new variants is people are expressing, quote unquote, expressing and manifesting the disease or the infection process differently. Some people are having what they would imagine to be allergies, mild cold symptoms, headaches. People think, oh, I just have a headache. I got to drink some water, eat some food, right? The thing I think is really important is like if you have recurring symptoms that don't make a lot of sense, like take a test. Get a home test. You can still get them from the state, even though you can't get them from the feds, I believe. Go on the Minnesota MDH website, and take those home tests. Last week we had an exposure. I was around some people that had tested positive later within like the last 24 or 48 hours, and I was like, oh gosh, this isn't good. And I tested myself for 3 or 4 days in a row before I went to the fair and before I came to see you and do a few other things. And I tested negative all those times, but I was in a room with her 24 hours before she tested positive for at least 45 to 50 minutes. But I'm also double boosted and double vaccinated as well.
And
so I think, and so I just think people have different experiences. You can't, there's no cookie cutter approach to this whole thing. It's like, I think what is important for people to understand. So if you're unsure, test. If you're unsure, get the vaccine. Do everything you can to sort of kind of protect yourself and protect the people around you that you live with, that you work with, that you socialize with, the people that you love and that matter to you. because COVID is here still, and I don't think we sort of amplify that message too often.
Right. And I was at a meeting today and we talked about the difference between pandemic and what is it, the next
Pandemic?
Yeah, so we're
Yeah.
getting the average is 2 to 3 years and we're heading towards that. And also I heard too that they're going to be doing one shot, a year, kind of like
Mhm. Yeah. So they're thinking that, I mean, the evidence is clear that it's probably something we're going to live with for quite a while. It'll be a virus. Like, people need to know that the flu virus is a form of a norovirus, right? And that it changes over time. It mutates. It has different strains every year. And every year they try to sort of kind of get out ahead of it. And
Right.
even though you might get your vaccine, you might still get a mild case of the flu. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get the flu. It means that you're not likely not to get a more serious strain of the flu. And people who die from flu and other kinds of endemic diseases are older people who have serious medical conditions, and infants, babies, right? So,
Yeah.
and we
Wow.
love old people and babies, so you better protect them.
Exactly. Hey, thank you for coming on today, Dr. Stately. It's always our pleasure here at Native Roots Radio. If you're listening to the show, you are part of the resistance from Chief Plenty Coops. The ground in which we stand on is sacred ground. We need to resist, divest, join a group, or run for office. Thank you, Ogama and Dr. Stately. We're still here. We are the 7th generation. Free Leonard Peltier now.
The local advertisers you hear on AM 950 are the lifeblood of the station.